it's safe to say that many new molds have been debuting in the model aircraft landscape. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some brand new molds that were announced at a Beijing expo. This is going to be super exciting, so let's go ahead and take a look at all these molds, everybody. Alrighty everybody, so just take a look at this. All of these brand new molds are here today. Super excited to take a look at this. And we also have JJ on board as well. So JJ, how you doing today? And you ready to check out all these brand new molds?
I am super ready to check this out. This is a really big list of new molds from a handful of manufacturers.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to take a look at this. So we have an entire list here. So what we'll do is take a look at the list first. And then we also have Instagram posts from JC Wings that we'll take a look at. So excited to check those out. And then we also have Model Airliner Forum here, and we have a really good thread on here as well. So as you can tell, this list is absolutely crazy. JC Wings takes the lead, as you can see, with like 15 aircraft. And then we got C Models, Panda Model, Patriot, and YU. So this is going to be super exciting. So JJ, are you ready to check out these brand new molds?
Absolutely.
Alrighty, let's get started. So I'll run through the list and then JJ and I will kind of give some thoughts. Starting with JC Wings, because the list is absolutely massive, as you can see right here. I zoomed in pretty far, but that's all right. So we have the Airbus, or I probably need to keep it zoomed out because as you can see, the key there has the color highlights for what mold is what scale. So we have a 1:400 A310, very exciting. There hasn't been many of those lately. A 1:100 Airbus A320 and 321neo. So I believe this is JC Wings' first attempt at a 1:100. So getting there with sky marks, that's going to be super fascinating. We don't have many die-cast 1:100 scale aircraft. We have the Antonov 12 or Antonov 22 1:400, very unique. In 1:200, we have the Antonov 225, which is very fascinating because I think Gemini had it, but I don't know if they're sharing or what that means. But it has the additional attachment or whatever that is, so we'll have to talk about that more. We have the Antonov 71, very nice. In 1:400, we have the Boeing 747 SP, so great to see this. We have in 1:200 the Boeing 767-400ER, which is still rather new for 1:400s. We have the Boeing BCF loader in 1:400, so I'm really eager to see what that looks like. In 1:200 for next four, we have the Bombardier Global 7500, the Burden spacecraft, the Canadian CL44-4-6, J and O, which is pretty cool. We have a Douglas DC-10 in 1:200, and then 1:72 we have a General Avionics MQ-9, which I think is like a military. That might be a helicopter. I'm not sure. Like whatever. We have a Kashkashi. I think they make like different types of moving pieces on the ground too. But in 1:200 they have a C-2. We have a Lockheed U-2 and U-2R in 1:400. In 1:400 and 200 we have the, I'm not even going to give that a try, Maccauley VM1. We have a North American XB70. And then 1:72, we have a Northrop Grumman RQ4. In 1:200, we have an Illusion IL86. And then both scales, we have a Tupolev TU204. So this is certainly quite the list. I am just really dumbfounded with the amount of variety that's here, and I certainly have quite a few thoughts on some of the more popular ones as well, but I want to give JJ a moment here, and thank you so much for making this graphic. This is outstanding. It looks super sharp. So JJ, what do you think about all these aircraft that JC Wings are making? What do you see here? What stands out to your eyes?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm really happy to make this graphic for this video, but just running through everything. I know you had a couple of questions about that. So the Antonov AN225, that's the Buran spacecraft, which was the answer to the space shuttle.
There we go.
So they had that sitting on top of the aircraft. And then the Antonov AN71, I'll just do a quick Google search on that. It's a very unique looking airplane. Like the wings are shaped backwards. It's a Soviet AWACS aircraft.
And there might be a picture on Instagram too, so we'll have to scroll through those in a moment.
Yeah, there'll probably be some on there. And then the Boeing 747 SP, that'll be revamped.
Yeah, I thought they had that previously, so cool to see that. Yeah.
Yep. That old one is on a cradle, so that will be upgraded.
Two-piece, yeah.
764 finally, and 1:200. I know Gemini just was talking about that a couple years ago.
Yeah, so that's coming.
The LCF loader, that's for the Dream Lifter, so that's what.
It's impressive to see it that small. Yeah, I know they've only done 1:200, so great to see that in 400.
Yeah. And the Global 7500 surprised me because I did not initially see that when I was looking through JC's Instagram.
Oh, nice.
Someone else pointed it out to me in DMs, so I looked through it again, and there it is right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the Buran spacecraft separately.
Yes.
And then we have this Canada Air CL44. So if I quickly pull that up, on my end. It was a Canadian turboprop and cargo aircraft. It's based on the Bristol Britannia.
Nice.
So that's where, if you've ever seen that aircraft, it will look fairly similar. And I have it highlighted there with the several different variants.
Yeah.
So you have the D4, which is the civil commercial cargo aircraft variant. Then there's like the D4, D6. There's the J variant, which is the stretched variant, and also the O variant, which was known as the Sky Monster, which is essentially a large, it's like a guppy aircraft. It's like the super guppies that you see, or those belugas. That's basically what that is. The General Atomics MQ-9, that is actually an unmanned aircraft.
Oh, nice.
It is officially known as the Reaper or the Predator B.
So that would make sense for 172.
Yep, it's an unmanned aerial vehicle, or UAV. Then we have the Kawasaki C2. This is a very interesting aircraft. I've seen a couple of these before, just looking on Google and all that. This is operated by the JASDF, the Japan Air Self-Defense Force. They're also using it in a couple other countries as well. So it's a fairly new aircraft. It's been manufactured through the 2010s. And that aircraft right there in the middle, the VM-T, this is a very unique aircraft. I will not try to pronounce the manufacturer because it is Russian. But basically, this was the aircraft that initially carried the Buran spacecraft. So if you were to put the separate Buran spacecraft with this, then it would go well in conjunction together. Yeah. This aircraft was phased out by the Antonov AN-225 because obviously it was much bigger and it could handle something as large as the Buran spacecraft. And then the RQ-4, that is similar to the MQ-9, with it being this is actually a remotely piloted surveillance aircraft, but technically an unmanned UAV aircraft. So the Global Hawk specifically is the aircraft name. And then the last two are pretty self-explanatory there. The Illusion IL-86 and then the Tupolev Tu-204. So it'll be great to see both of those in 1 to 200 scale and then both scales respectively. So very elaborate list from JC Wings. I'm quite surprised that they had that many, but let's see what the other manufacturers have.
Yeah, I agree. We'll definitely talk about it more on the pictures, but this definitely shows that JC Wings wants to reach more of that unique audience that we've hinted at before. But I think you kind of have to do this when, you do so many of the popular aircraft, you at some point have to expand your resources. So I'm glad to see that. We're back over here to C Model. If you don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, JJ, but from what I understand, it seems like they are kind of like a Panda spinoff, but they also kind of have their own operation. But they've mainly made Boeing 737s and a couple of Airbuses as well, I think. 320 family.
They've made a couple of different aircraft recently. Some of them are like retailer exclusives.
Yes,
or, you know, that's kind of how I've seen it as, but I believe that, yes, they do use Panda molds in this case. So that A330 and the 787, it should actually say just 787 Dreamliner because I've been told they actually have all three variants.
Oh, wow,
so the
nice.
Dash 8, 9, and 10. So they'll have all of those variants because initially I just saw the Dash 8, so I didn't think that they would have had the other two variants, but it does make sense to have the other two.
Just like the 330, yes.
Yep, so they'll have both of those types as well for the 330.
Which is very exciting because this really opens the door for C Models to make some aircraft that have not been produced before. I know the 787 has been really exercised well, but there's still quite a few offerings, and always getting a different take on it certainly helps. So I'm excited to see what kind of 787s that they come up with, especially Dash 10s. And A330s, this is also really helpful as well. We have had a pretty good scope on this, but there's still a few that we're short on. So whether that's international carriers or another version of Delta, or really whatever it's going to be, I certainly think that getting the different versions of this really helps out. So C Model is definitely doing some work here. I'm also eager to see if Panda will tap into these molds at all, if it will go the other way around. As far as I'm aware, C Models is using Panda molds, but Panda's not using C Models. But I guess these are technically C Models because Panda's coming up by themselves. So we'll see how this relationship works, but it's certainly interesting in the fact that they've shared and so forth, but apparently these will actually be theirs. So I'm eager to see how this will be implemented. So it'll be pretty fascinating for sure. So C Model's looking sharp. Next, we have Panda Models. They have a lone new mold. It's the Boeing 767-200. This will complement their Boeing 767-300 and 400. I think this is a good choice. There's certainly plenty of 762s to do. NG's done a handful, but I still think that we'd all love to see Battleship Gray and Delta Widget and many others that haven't been done. So I think that Panda, yes, absolutely, DHL, ABX, you name it. So I certainly think that this will enable Panda to have the platform that the other manufacturers have not took advantage of for whatever reason yet. So I certainly think that they'll happily get a one-up on NG with this particular offering. I'm sure this was kind of intentionally done. JJ, would you align with that?
Yeah, I would definitely align with that.
So that's definitely cool. And yeah, overall, this will be a really good mold. So JJ, any additional thoughts on Panda 762?
No, I mean, the Panda 767 is excellent. I'd like to add one of theirs into my collection.
That Delta one's real good. Yeah, there's so many good ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and then once they do something like a DHL or AVX Air, when they do something like that, that will definitely be joining my collection, and whatever else they may end up doing. If they do like a United, American, Continental, just any of those airlines.
Continental. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Yep. The
Aeromexico had 762s.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, they had Chrome ones.
Yep, and then United also had them as well after the Continental.
United did United have a Solbass 762? I'm pretty sure, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's one that they can do.
Yep, and they got some more after the Continental merger. Those did not last very long because they were old and they had the larger 300s anyway, so not really much use for them.
Absolutely.
But yeah, a lot of options for the 760.
Yeah, so I think this is a really clever choice by Panda, and nobody else is going to sneak into and tap into their business. So, but yeah, they've proven that their mold's really good. So I'm eager to see what they're able to exercise in the way of the 767-200s. That's really smart. I don't know if Patriot's new or not, but I haven't seen any of their aircraft before. Regardless, we have 2 new molds from them, and this is going to be starting with the 1-400 scale. We have the Antonov AN12, which is really exciting, and I don't think that we have had a really awesome Antonov 12 and 400 before, so this is really exciting. If we have, I apologize, but I can't think of one off the top of my head, so that will be awesome. And then in the 1-200 scale, another Tupolev will be joining the fleet. This will be the Tu-134UBL, which is very cool. I think we've had some of these in 1-400 from Panda, could be wrong, but exciting to see what the 1-200 take is going to be like. So JJ, what are you thinking about these two?
Yeah, I think we've had a couple 134s from Panda as well.
Yeah.
I've never seen something.
It's been a couple years, but I think we had some there. Yeah.
Yeah, something similar at Airliners last year in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So this UBL variant, this is specifically it's like a Tupolev Tu-160. It's used for crew training, it seems like, to my understanding. It has the nose cone of the Tupolev 160. So that aircraft, it's a heavy bomber, so it's kind of like a B-1 essentially. So they use that for training. And then the Antonov 12, that would be a very good one because every now and again it likes to fly to the U.S. There's a couple of them that are still floating around.
Hey, it even came to Tulsa, so it does come to small hubs, and it was just in Houston, so it does fly around.
Yeah. So it would be great to have that type available, especially.
Definitely want that purple and orange livery for sure. That's the most popular one. I forget the airline. Chinook? Canuck. I'm forgetting the airline name, but
I don't think it's that. That may have been the one that was retired recently.
Maybe so. Yeah, there was some that had purple and orange on it. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, very nice. So looking sharp for the Patriot aircraft, and then we have 2 more here for YU to finish the new lineup, and YU will be debuting both in 1-400 scale and Airbus A300, which I think that this could be a really, really, really underrated new ad. Now, obviously, Aero Classics has done a couple of very popular A300s, but if this has antennas and so forth, I really feel like this is going to blow up. So this has potential to really be a game changer, and we also have the Tupolev Tu-124, which I don't think's been done in 1-400, but I might be wrong. So regardless of the case, the E300 has potential. If they want to do US aircraft, they could definitely really make bank on that, but we'll see what they choose. Tupolevs, unfortunately, are not my area of expertise, but it's awesome to add these different variants. I know there's so many collectors for it. So JJ, what do you think about these 2 here from YU?
Yeah, those A300s, they've been out for a while. They announced a bunch of them a few months ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
As far as I know,
you're right.
They haven't been sent out to retailers or anything. So, we've seen Aero Classics. They've been releasing some A300s. They just did an American example recently, which I know U Models has one of them in the works. I think they're doing the gray top one.
Oh, nice. Okay, I did not know that. That's really exciting.
Yep. So, and then that Tupolev 124, that is a variant of the Tu-104, which was infamous for, actually, there's a really good Mustard video on it, but basically what would happen with those 104s is that they would fly straight up into the sky and then they would pitch back down, and unfortunately some of them did crash. But this 124 was basically a scaled down version of that, and as far as I know, I don't think it had the same flaws that the 104 did originally, but I have to look into that myself too. But it's really cool to see some Tupolevs in here. I've had a soft spot for Soviet era aviation as of late, so I'd like to maybe expand on that in the future once I exhaust my US and
that will never
all that.
happen, sir.
That is very true, especially when you have
Definitely not in
3D
2025,
printing.
that's for sure.
No, that'll be more of a long-term thing. But just overall, the Tupolevs have been very interesting to me. So just reading into that and seeing how Soviet aviation was like alongside the U.S. aviation in the same time span, it's very fascinating to read up on that. But as you look at the overall list of molds, I did look at many resources that I could possibly get my hands on. I'm not on, I don't use Chinese social media like WeChat and all that, which I'm sure there's probably more information there. So the list that is presented here may not be the complete list. There's probably a couple more out there that
We'll
I haven't
continue
come
to
across
provide
yet.
updates as we get them.
Yep, so we'll be following this as close as we can. And as far as I know, this is a 3-day event, I believe. It started on April 18th, so we're recording this on the 19th. Yep. So this is the second day, and then April 20th, the last day of this event. So it's like the Chinese version of Airliners International, based on my understanding.
Very cool.
But it also covers like way more than just model airplanes. There's all kinds of other like model hobby stuff, based on my understanding. I'll definitely have to look into this a little more. But this expo sounds very interesting.
Yeah, let's hope that some footage gets on YouTube. We might have to react to that and so forth. I'm very fascinated.
Yeah.
This is complete news to me. So, yeah, what a list.
Yeah.
This is very exciting. I certainly think that there's so much potential here. Let's just go ahead and take a look at some pictures and some threads. This is JC Wings' Instagram here, and you can see some of the new aircraft, starting here with the 747 SP looking pretty sharp. I like the pin there. That's very nice as well. There's the Beluga looking very nice. And there's the DC-3. Some of these are already existing, of course, but of course, this is just the show pictures, so it's pretty cool. So there's some new ones in there, I'm sure. It appears some of those might be new, so that's exciting. There's a better close-up.
The second post will have the little tag things that show.
So there's the first post, and then this one will be easier to follow along with. Here's our 1 to 200 Tupolev 204. Here is our Antonov 22, which is a pretty good looking plane. Very fascinating.
Yeah,
very nice.
Great.
Yeah, that's sharp. We have the A320 1 and 20 and 1 to 100, which this is quite an experiment, but I think it will be a hit if they're able to do it at a reasonable price. I'm really eager to see the pricing on this, but if they can manage to keep this under $200, I think, which I certainly would hope so. But again, this is double the size of a 1 to 200, so we're just going to have to see. But I'm eager to see what this translates into. Not the prettiest picture, but we have the CL44-4 on the left, the 6 in the middle, and maybe the 8 on the right. Not exactly sure, but they look pretty cool. Very sharp.
I think that one, there's the J.
This is the J variant. Yeah, so the J's right here, and then here's the 0, and that's a little bit easier to see. So that's very nice. Yep. We also had the 1 to 400 fuselage pieces back there, which is nice. There's our IL-86.
For a while.
Yes. I'm looking for that front loader piece. We'll see if that shows up. We got the C2. That's a very cool looking aircraft, kind of like a C-17 a little bit there in the 1 to 200 scale. There is the Antonov 225 with the space shuttle on it. I think that looks really nice. I'm eager to see what that translates into long term. Also got the tip right there as well. So that's very nice, very impressive. That's what I'm looking for. Look at that. That is cool. So we have our Airbus Beluga loader and the 747-400 LCF loaders. So those look really sharp, and I'm eager to see what that will be all about. So might have to pick that up. That's really sharp. That is the 747 SP again. Very cool. Oh, man, that is cool. There is the loader. Very extensive. I'm eager to see if that will be like $30 or what they're going to charge for that, but certainly impressed.
Yeah, that looks really great.
So definitely opens the door, and these interactive aircraft continue to evolve. So great job, JC Wings. A DC-10, very good looking aircraft. They did a good job on this one as well. The YMT, that is an aircraft and a half. And will it have landing gear? We will have to see. But that is like that's like an A10 plus a B-52 and maybe a little bit of a 707. I don't know what that is, but that is pretty darn cool.
And it has the tail fin of an AN-22 as well.
Yeah, true. That yeah, very good point. So, wow, that is impressive. Very nice. Here are U2s, the Dragon Lady on the left there, and then you got the Dragon Lady R variant on the right. So as you can tell, the R is way more complex. So very fascinating. Got the Tupolev Tu-204 in the 1 to 400, looking very nice. I think that one's going to turn out really well, so eager to see how that shows up. Got the Antonov 71. Take a look at that top piece there in these engines. So JC Wings was not scared to show what their capabilities are. Let's just say that they were loading up for this. There's the YMT with a blimp on it, I think, or whatever exactly that's supposed to be. Very fast.
I think it's some type.
Or
It's
like,
some type of big equipment that they
yeah,
carry. If I
yeah.
can find, if I just look up the VMT again, just see if I can figure out. It's a three. Well, there's one with like a payload container on the top, but I think that's probably what it is. I think that's just an elongated payload container on top of it.
Very nice. There's the RQ4B. I like that. That's pretty good looking.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty fascinating. That's 172 once again, so obviously going to be way bigger, so that can go with the Cessna or so forth. There's the Reaper, the MQ-9. Was that on the list? I think it was.
Yep, that was on the list.
Yeah, Jim on Atomics, MQ-9. I'm sorry. The Reaper part threw me off. So that's a really good looking aircraft. I like the prop in the back, so that definitely is progressing very nicely. So eager to see what that looks like. And there's the XB70, and it kind of looks like a Concorde, but it's not Concorde. So very nice, and that is in both scales, obviously, as you can see right there. So very good post here from JC Wings. Eager to see more of what this is going to be about. This just came out today, so we will see if we have more tomorrow, but it's already got 800 likes. So that definitely shows you that the community is very excited for this. Let's take a look at what MAF has to say about this. As you can see here, they talk about the new manufacturers right here, which Phoenix, I guess, hasn't announced any yet, presumably. I think that's the case. So we will definitely follow up with another video if obviously needed.
Yeah, not to my knowledge. I haven't seen anything from Phoenix yet, but I'll be sure to see if I can get my hands on any information. So follow up more than likely in the coming days and weeks whenever we get that information.
Absolutely, yes. So we'll definitely likely do a follow-up, and I'm sure we'll have some more photos and so forth. So definitely expect likely a follow-up video no matter what the case is. And then if I scroll the thread here, we talk about people attending, and then we got talk about the actual aircraft themselves. And they were talking about some of the different aircraft. Here's some different photos of the Patriot Antonov 12, which looks very nice. I like the stand on it too. I think it's pretty cool. So definitely
makes me wonder. Oh yeah, sorry. I was
good.
just gonna say it makes me wonder if if it's gonna have detachable gear on it.
This is a great point, or if it will have gear. I'm eager to see what their plan is on it, but I really like the structural component of the mold. Yeah, the gear definitely will be interesting to see. So I'm eager to see what that happens on that. So that'll be very fascinating. And yes, this is the first time Patriot is developing molds that are theirs. So I guess they probably have been similar to C models, just using other releases, but I've never seen them before. So, okay.
I know with Patriot, they've released a DC-10. I think they used an Aeroclassics mold with some modifications.
Nice.
And they also have done the City of Everett 747 as like a special tanker variant. I think they did as well. So they've done a couple of releases already, and the quality on them is really impressive.
Okay, that's exciting.
That looks exciting. I think there actually might be one more new mold in this thread. I think there might be one more now that I think about it, but we'll see if that shows up here a little later on.
There's a very good shot right there of the Antonov 71, I believe. Very nice.
Yep, that would be it.
And then I'm forgetting this. U2, yes, thank you. And then the DC-44s again, or not DC.
CL-44.
CL-44s, very nice. So definitely fascinating for sure. There's a really cool display here of the C model 787s. And yes, the 3 variants are confirmed here, -8, -9, and presumably the 10. It's kind of what that seems like. So that's looking very nice. Just love how they display it all. You got the cool C Models logo there, and then you got all these boxes holding it up. So no shortage of innovation. You got some Geminis there, so we do have some Gemini jets there. And this is the YU display here of their A300 and 204s on the bottom here. So that's really cool. So one of these a passenger, one of these a freighter maybe, but we got antennas and all that. So definitely going to be very solid quality. So that's very exciting. That is Panda 762. That looks really good. This engine pylon is phenomenal. This is perfection. This is gold. So Panda, keep up the good work. I need that American MD-11, but this is awesome. This is epic. That is so good. So DHL, ABX, release it, please. I'm so excited. Here's a different vantage point of the Antonov 12. That looks very nice right there.
And I think that right there, that's the other new mold. I think the Patriot 764. So they're
really? Well. Is that a Patriot set? Yeah, here's the logo, the titling. Yep. So Patriot has a 764. This looks a bunch like the Panda, man. That might be the Panda or modifications.
They're probably based My guess is they're probably using the Panda just because, you know, they use the
It looks
aeroplastics
identical,
from the
dude. I mean,
DC-10.
honestly, it looks the exact same. So I think that that's probably what's going on there, which is very exciting. We'll see what they release with that. And then DC-10, I can kind of even get a little bit of Aero Classics touch to that if that's what's going on. But anyway, very excited to see the Patriot 764s. So that continues our long list, which is excellent. And then we talk more and more about a variety of topics. Here's JJ's list, which we will see if he needs to add any to it, but I think he's got it down pretty good. If despite that, look at all those, and yeah, there's where the 764 can go, but doing very good. And there's the post on Instagram, and I don't see any pictures of Panda's A330, but we will definitely have to keep our eye on it. So yeah, overall, very fascinating. There's certainly so much to go to. I think that the picture that really summed it up well, there was one on this page, wasn't there? That was pretty good. Let's see. That one's pretty cool. I would just say that this picture is kind of fascinating just to look at, you know, all the implications and what's going on there. So that's very fascinating. So I'll just zoom in on that for a moment so we can just admire that. So JJ, what are you thinking overall? Quite a bit going on here. I'm really excited for it, and there'll definitely be more conversation to be had, but it's safe to say that progression is happening in the 400, 200, 72, every space that you can imagine.
Absolutely. There's so much that we're still learning about this hobby because, you know, I say that every day you're a student, you're always learning something, and especially in this hobby because of all of the intricate web of different manufacturers, retailers, and just sources that you can end up interacting with. And, you know, I've come across several great sources myself that have, you know, they have this intel on this hobby, and this is an example of where, you know, here it all comes to light and we have this information here. So, you know, just seeing all this information, I think it's important that we get it out there to a wider audience, because this is really cool to see, just all the different aircraft types, the different molds that, you know, hey, these manufacturers, they're doing all these cool things, and it might be worth considering, you know, looking at them a little deeper and seeing what's going on, because this hobby is so intricate. There's so much going on with it, a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes and on both sides, you know. There's a lot of stuff, and this Beijing Expo is like the perfect epitome of that, just from my perspective, the perfect epitome of how so much is going on behind the scenes in this hobby.
Absolutely, and more of that also to come in conjunction with its North America counterpart, Airliners International. That will be taking place June 25 through 28 of 2025, the Delta Flight Museum. Definitely recommend you be there, but super exciting. We'll definitely make a follow-up video with more information. I'm sure that there'll be a bunch of pictures that come out over the next several days, so very excited to follow up with more. And there might be even more news, but just so excited to see the progress. I think this list really tells the story, so I'm eager to see what this will transpire into. JC Wings especially did not hold back by any means, so I'm eager to see what it's all going to be about, and it's going to be super exciting. So JJ, thank you so much for participating today. Thank you for all that you do. This is an awesome graphic. Super excited for more collaborations to come in the future, and safe to say that this space is progressing, and we may even have to do a podcast soon. We'll have to see.
Absolutely. Happy to help.
Absolutely. You name it. But with that being said, that'll do it for today's video, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. Take it easy, everybody. Stay safe. Just process. Do you love and love you do. My name's CM Aviation. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon as CM Aviation is signing off.